So when I started putting cameras on planes, I found the FreeWing ordnance attachment rails. This was long before I even had a FreeWing plane, but I liked the modular options for it. So I started putting them on things. And one of them being, you know, a standard run cam tray, cut off the spine, glue it in, take the socket portion and attach it to a plane, and voila, I could just go and clip it on, pull it off, move it to a different plane. This was before I realized that the way FreeWing actually uses it is they put the tabs sticking out of the plane. So when I did end up getting those, I ended up taking one of the sockets, two of them, putting them together, but going in opposite directions. So this one, you know, latches up onto there, keep it from going back, and then this one moves in the same way. And this was all well before I had a 3D printer. So when I did get a 3D printer, I made a couple of these pods, which are really cool. Button accesses the record power button, holds the camera. Nice little bit more aerodynamic. Can flip it around either direction. Works great. Here's another one of the original things there. Then I started doing FPV on planes, and I wanted to be able to move that around. I ran across these cute little, 25 milliwatt Fat Shark VTXs that are pretty much all in one. They had 5 volt out, and then I found the run cam USB cable, which could do power, so they don't even have to have a battery in the run cam. Saves a little bit of weight, but had power and video feeds. Going to that, going to a little 2S LiPo, fits in the back, plug that in, power, all self-contained, good to go. You can slap this on anything, cars, boats, well, maybe not a boat, and any of my planes. So I had a whole bunch of flight test planes that just had the socket, glued onto the top of the center of the wing, or on the belly if it had landing gear, so it wasn't crashing into the camera. And this was also before I had a 3D printer, but I did have a laser, so lasered up the plywood. Again, cut the spine off, glue it on. There we go. This then worked on everything I was already putting standard cameras on. This comes forward to this last year or so, where I got the MotionSIC BAG, the badass gimbal, and I also had a 3D printer at this point, so this is what I think this is my third iteration or so. Still cutting that fin off and gluing it on. I haven't built it into the design yet, because it also gave me a nice, flat surface for the build plate. But this is fully all-in-one, pan tilt, DJI AirUnit. Down inside, underneath here, we have a 4 or 6S line in that is then being split into 2 of these little UBECs that are switchable to either 5 volt 3 amp or 12 volt 2 amp, which hopefully is enough for what I'm doing here. Just wire them up, jumper one of them, And then that feeds 12 volt for the AirUnit and 5 volt for a Crossfire Nano with the PWM board. This is one of the older ones that only had the four connections, which there I just have the servo cables plugged in, coiled up, jammed in there for the pan and tilt servos, and then just tacked in the DJI antennas and the Crossfire antenna with a little bit of hot glue. We'll see how this one holds up. Haven't tested on this arrangement yet. I was using a full-size Immortal T laying across here, stuck out like whiskers. So I wanted something a little bit more compact that would fit in some of these other canopies. I decided that the mini Mortal T would be plenty because I'm running the control links on all these planes are 2.4 gigahertz. I decided to use the all-in-one with the Crossfire so that my Radio Master could bind the plane with the internal module and then use the bay with the Crossfire to connect to the gimbal unit. I also added the Bluetooth module to the Radio Master so it can connect to the Arduino Bluetooth head tracker. But then I can take this and any, plane cockpit that I've modified, of course, still in progress, need to clean that up. But this just slides right in, take the power lead, pop it down through the hole, and then when I go to put this on, in this case the E-flite 1.2 meter, P51, plug in the power that I have spliced off of my LiPo beeper, plug it into the port, and ta-da, off we go. No active cooling on this, all out the open, easy to get at the card, easy to get at the USB ports, and then when I land, okay, got warm up with the, the slower prop planes, got that. Flip over to my Viper 70. Just click it on, feed it down underneath, and away you go. So far I've done most of my flight testing on these with the Viper 70 and P51. But as you can see, I have a whole lot of other ones in progress. Prior to adding the gimbal to the 3D printed mounts and just going as the straight FPV, also did several on the E-flite F4 Phantom. We've also got back here, we've got the E-flite SU-30, the FMS 70mm Avanti, the 80mm Freewing F86, the 90mm Freewing F18 and F16, the 17mm F35, and the new X-Fly 80mm T7. So that's my plans for the, and one hiding back over here, I've also got the 80mm Freewing Gripen. So lots of options, lots of things, hopefully getting some good footage of this summer. So now let's take a little bit closer look, some of the modifications and things that I had to do for the mounting here. Because of wanting to keep this pretty compact, there isn't a whole lot of space in front of the front pin before the servo. So with that, I had to modify the rail because it would only sink in and not actually slide. So on all of the canopy mounts, I have that piece trimmed off so that it can slide in and fully engage. By using just the simple JST connector for the module, it allowed me to keep the pilot hole size small on some of the canopies, so you just have a relatively small hole, or even a square hole off in the corner to feed the power cable through. That allowed me some flexibility also in how to power it. I could just use this little XT30 to JST, and again go back and use the little tiny batteries that I've got. I've got a couple of these in 3S as well, that I would use for this. But small little light XT30 connector, or even a small little JST battery if I had any of those. But mostly what I do is I'm configuring my various LiPo beepers. So in my non-voltage telemetry planes, I use these beepers, set up, the pins cut off so I don't get them backwards as often. And then I just soldered onto those connections to do a full 6S, or on a few of them 4S voltage taps leading to the JST connector. On my telemetry capable planes, I use the same technique on the FrSky LiPo sensor. A few of them I have also taken and just spliced a JST connector right out of the main battery wiring loom. So it's actually drawing from the main connector and not the LiPo sensors off to the sides, which honestly I kind of prefer to do that so I'm not having to solder into the sensors.